tips for understanding the Quran, no? Okay, so helpful tips to study the Quran effectively, all right? And I think, this word study is important. So don't just get into the habit of reading, go beyond the read, okay? Although, the reading itself is amazing, particularly if you've got nice voice and you can do proper, beautiful qiraat, with rhythms like Qari Sahib does. That is, therapeutically very, cathartic can be and helpful. Certainly is, that's good, because it has physiological impact as well, actually. The reading with deep and long breaths has a physiological impact, and it gives you sort of calming effect, okay? But I think we need to go beyond that, inshallah, to really understand its message. So if you can move on to the next, perhaps 150 themes altogether, you don't have to believe in that. You can have perhaps 200 yourself, but that's a way of understanding, all right? So there are major themes, about 12 major themes, and then sub-themes, okay? And it's really, important to understand that. So you get an idea of what this book is really all about, overview of it. And you should have that, you should know those 12 themes. It's so sad that we never teach those, we don't even do that. It's really strange, but we live in a society where we live in a world or country which has the highest standard of education. So we should really be aiming for all of these things. Is that right or not?
Yep.
Yes, we should be actually aiming for high standard for ourselves and for our children. So understand the major Quranic themes. Grow in confidence to study the Quran, all right? A lot of us don't actually, first of all, we believe, it's not understandable, and our ulama have done a wonderful job in convincing us that it is not understandable. You're just not good enough for it. And one of the reasons is because most of them themselves don't understand it, to be honest, okay? They've learned it in a strange way. And most of them don't. When I say that, and I can say that with confidence, knowing many of them don't really. So at the end of this course, you will be able to. So those are my learning objectives. So what are the outcomes I want to see? You should be able to demonstrate understanding of the key Quranic themes. So you should be able to say, these are the major themes of the Quran, okay, Tawheed, Risala, Akhirah, okay, the development of character, okay, the history of human disobedience, the lives of the prophets, and so on, okay. So those are, you should be able to know what those Quranic themes are, and then understand the ring structure of the surahs, which inshallah will take you through hopefully tomorrow, not today, and understand that it's not a linear, but a very it's a ring structure, which is one of the most fantastic way of writing, particularly for a book that is to be memorized and to be studied again and again, and which is dramatic as well. It really is. And that's how most of the dramas are written. So describe the central theme of 2 surahs as an example. I don't think we'll be able to do two surahs. We might just get through Surah Al-Kahf. And so no, we'll do Surah Yasin during the morning, and we'll get through 2 surahs. Yeah. So what is the Quran? Okay, here are some words that will help us. A guidance. Okay, what is guidance? Anybody like to elaborate on guidance there? No? Are you here, Abbas?
Yeah.
You are. Okay, because sometimes you can be here in form and body, but we could be. Yes, come on, tell us then. What is guidance?
Guidance is when you're steered into a particular direction by someone or maybe something.
Okay, good. That's good. That's very good. It's taking you in a particular direction. Okay, taking you in a particular direction. And anyone else like
best
to?
Practices for the best practices of life, or best practices for any communication.
Okay, so good best practices. So it's methodology, way of doing things as well. Anyone else like to elaborate on that? Sorry? Okay, so the guidance leads to the way of salvation, okay, towards salvation. Okay, I have an article on guidance based on a very beautiful article that was written hundreds of years ago by Ibn Jawzi. It's actually based on his, how does the Quran give us guidance? If anybody wants it, I will be able to share that with you, but I don't want to be sidetracked to that. But that's again very important, because the Quran is, the Quran says, "Hudal lil muttaqin," a guidance for the God-fearing, but also hudal lin nas, for all people. It isn't just for Muslims, although we Muslims now possess it and we lay claim on it, and we are really keeping it very close to our hearts and not sharing it at all with anybody. One of our aims with Majestic Quran is actually to share it with everybody through our paperback edition that we're going to be doing soon, inshallah. Make dua. Very soon we'll be publishing our paperback, which will be used for dawah purposes. And with these themes and plain English that we've adopted, it really is, I can tell you, it will have a huge impact on, inshallah, on people there. No? So guidance, okay? So every surah develops a central theme. I want, that's something very important for you to understand, that every surah does have a theme, all right? It's not just wishy-washy and anything and everything that comes, the Quran has. No, it isn't. We're going to do Surah Al-Qaf, and you'll see very clearly. The central theme there is the clash between materialism and spirituality. Very clear, If you look at those 5 stories it tells, that is what, that is the underlying theme, and that's what underpins all of those 5. And that's the thread that actually weaves through all of those stories. The clash between the outward and the inward, the material and the spiritual, really. So yes, every surah has a central theme. We just need to think about it, and we need to make that. Those are less important things. Yeah, let's move on to the next one. Yeah, no. So that's why I want you, inshallah, those of you who have got my Majestic Quran or will be having it, do always read the introduction. To be honest, usually I don't think there's any more than 500-600 words. It takes you 3 or 4 minutes to read, but it just lays down the central theme, how it's developing from beginning to the end. Okay. Yeah, we were talking about what makes the Quran very unique is its method of giving direct instructions. Okay, there's nothing that is indirect. It's very direct from Allah to you, the reader. Okay? It speaks to you directly. That's the beauty of it. Although the first mukhatab is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but really the qari, the reader, you are being spoken to. So this is why we say that in salah you are trying to speak to Allah. You're trying very hard, I hope, to speak to Allah. But in the Quran, what's happening? Allah is speaking to you. This is kalamullah. What is it? The speech of Allah. Okay, Allah is speaking to you. Now Allah is speaking, but if your receiver isn't, tuned properly and you're not on the same wavelength, are you going to receive the message? And that is why, what do you begin with? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. So the tuning begins there. When you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, what are you doing? You're tuning in to Allah. You're seeking protection and removing the shaitanic thoughts and ideas, and you're tuning in, you're getting your wavelength right so that you can hear Allah speak. So that's really important, that we begin to listen to Allah. It doesn't speak in abstract terms at all, to be honest. Abstract, they're very concrete. And that's why it's easy, you should be able to understand it. Often uses the imperative. A lot of do this, anfiqu, okay? Aqimus salah, okay? Atuz zakah. Orders, very clear orders there, no? This is when you experience change. You talk about, you will only experience change when you actually practice this. So look for these orders of Allah, and every page has them, okay? So I'm giving you some tips on how to truly study the Quran, okay? So you benefit from it, okay? Okay, this is the second point. It's it's brief, and it doesn't give you useless information. Okay, there's nothing useless there. It's always to the point. Okay, concise. You can I can use this word minimalism. All right, it really brings it down to the to the bone. Why? For example, this morning we were reading the story about the three prophets. You would say, I'd like to know what their names are, eh? I'd like to know which place they were. I'd like to know when they were. You say, well, wait a minute. What difference would that make, eh? Whether they were called Kamal and Jamal, and what would that make? Hey, come on. And whether they were in Antioch or whether they were in Turkey or whether they were in Pakistan, what difference would it make, eh? We want you to concentrate on the message. The message is listening, okay, to those. Are you with it? Okay? And of course, the Mufassirin have spent so much time and energy on trying to actually locate and who these are, what they were. So you see pages and pages of people arguing about who these could be, which is fine. That's a human endeavor and human way. But the Quran itself isn't really interested in that. It's just interested in how humans become stubborn and unwilling to listen. That is the real message, isn't it? I just wanted you to reflect on that, why that is important. Okay, and so this minimalism is really powerful, as though it's in hurry. I noticed that, and sometimes it doesn't actually use even and. The wow is missed out. Okay, it misses us. Come on, get to the point of it. Okay, why bother about these conjunctions even? Leave them. Okay, and get to the real core. So it gets to the message and pronounces the moral and spiritual lessons. Notice them. So I'm just saying, notice that. Okay, this fast-moving, galloping text. Yeah. I called it a manual. What's the difference between a textbook and a manual? Handbook and a textbook. What's the difference between them, Zair? Between a handbook and a textbook, which are very practical and
just gives you information.
Yeah, theory, knowledge. Yes, theory, knowledge. But the handbook is really very practical. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, don't be too dogmatic about it. Of course, it also has textbook. It has very important knowledge as well. Okay, that's not to say, but first and foremost, it's really a handbook, which we should live by. All right. Is that okay, everybody? Yes. I just want you to sort of think about, your university textbooks you had. Eh? You read the textbooks, but then you used to do practicals. We totally had a different manual and handbook to do the experiments. All right. Here Allah has combined the two in many ways. All right. So the textbook and the and the handbook are one. Right. So this is a unique feature of Allah's way of talking to us, guiding us to the. Okay. So what does it do? It persuades. Oh, let's go back up now. Don't gallop too fast. Okay. It persuades, dissuades, pricks the conscience. That's really important, flips from present to future and back to the past. Okay, so it's really interesting. From present, it would go to the future, and from the future, it would go back to the past, not to the present, but back into the past. And sometimes from the past, it would go into future. It jumps like that. And that has a great impact. It's sort of compressing. For Allah, there is no time. Allah is not limited by any time. It's beyond time. Yeah, no? So the Quran, in a way, compresses, the past, the future, and the past, present, and the future into one. Really, in many ways, it compresses it, using evidence from nature, human experience, and history. That's really important. You must notice that. It uses evidence from what? Nature is one of the biggest one, and in Surah Yasin you will see that. The next passage we're going to read tomorrow morning is all about evidence from nature, about how Allah brings things to life. Okay, it's all to do with nature. And then from human experience. Well, the three prophets, the story of the three messengers is about human experience, how humans, unwilling to listen and that human experience and history. Yeah. So it demands the reader's full attention, all right? It really does. I mean, it's not a, what would you say? It's not Roald Dahl's work, all right? Which you could read at half sleep and still, get to the story. Can I? It's not that. It actually does require thinking. Okay, you have to be alert, and this is why the Prophet ﷺ said, "Don't read Quran when you're, sleepy or drowsy. You shouldn't. You should read it with full attention." Okay, so applying one's mind and being very focused. So this leads to reflection and asking pertinent questions. Who is the Creator? What does He expect from me? And in my translation, what I've done is on the margins, I've tried to do that actually. In this on every page, I have a little nugget which I've sort of derived from the page. Okay, here. And this is sort of something that I found, coming out to me, telling me that, this is something that I really need to focus on. Let me just read you this one here. For example, here, this is the disloyalty and mistrust of the hypocrites makes them despicable citizens. The disloyalty, the mistrust of the hypocrites makes them most despicable citizens. And this is Surah At-Tawbah, which obviously is full of. There are nearly 12 wretched qualities of the hypocrites, and their biggest problem actually is not being loyal. Okay, betrayal is one of their major problems, and not being people who can be trusted. So I sort of bring that out. And you should be able to discern that kind of, from each page. Yeah, next one is, it persuades through reason, which actually means we need to learn how to reason. Okay, so one of the great things about our modern education is actually it is all about developing your logic and reason, isn't it? It really is amazing the way it develops it. This is a big contrast to education in other parts of the world, particularly India, Pakistan, and developing country where it's rote learning and where people are not trained to think clearly and to reason and be analytical and synthetic. We're here, alhamdulillah, we are really very well trained to be able to reason, to analyze, and then to synthesize things. Okay. So we should be, for us, the Quran is really amazing, and this is why I said, the English-speaking world would love the Quran because of its reasonableness. Big contrast to Bible, to be honest, in many ways, particularly the Old Testament, which is many times irrational, really, and right down violent, extremist, and right down rude, and something that you wouldn't want to even read. Seriously, that is how it is. But inshallah, in the Quran, I can very confidently put it on any coffee table of a non-Muslim and see you shouldn't be offended by anything. Okay, there isn't anything that offends or insults human intellect in that way. Seriously, it's just amazing. And I'll tell you what the problem is. We Muslims have never presented it in the right way, and I think this is what we need to learn, the way we present it, using the right language. Okay, so that's our final prayer here, which Aji Shahzad has put on there. So, oh Allah, the loving and caring Lord, open our hearts and minds to your beautiful speech. We ask you to make our global village peaceful and safe. Kind Lord, bless our Master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his companions and wonderful family. Ameen.